Most people don't have a money problem, they have a clarity problem. They have a budgeting problem. As soon as you figure out where your money's going and you make small micro adjustments that I'll outline in this video, you will have peace of mind as a result of having enough money in the bank. If you are the type of person that you spend a lot of money and you have no income, there is no helping you. But if you are seeking an income, and then once you have a steady stream of income, it doesn't even have to be a lot of money, it could just be enough to live by. If you figure out where that money's going, you can totally change your life, and that will be better for you. So in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how to stop being confused about your money. I'm going to give you steps to get control over your money and how to build actual wealth so that you have money in the bank, and then eventually you want that money to work for you and to earn money on top of that. Why do you want to do any of this? I shouldn't have to talk you into it, but for men, money equals status. For women, money equals security, and they could be intertwined. Obviously, men need security too, and some women are looking for higher status. But just being able to take care of yourself is like a bare minimum in this world, and it's not a reflection saying if you don't have money that you aren't taking care of yourself. I don't mean to say that at all. I'm trying to actually gear this for people that are younger that haven't been able to establish a life yet. But the ideal viewer is if you're 20 years old, you're grown up at this point, so you could go out and get a job, but either you haven't gotten a job because you just don't want to do it, you don't want to work. I get it. Or no one's told you that the reasons we go to work is to create value, to get your social cup filled, in order to provide value to other people, to benefit society, etc. There's lots of reasons people go to work, but the self-centered reason, the thing that it benefits you, is you get paid for that, and then with that money, if you plan it accordingly, you're actually buying yourself future freedom. So I want to change this outlook of the way work is, and this is something I had to learn. I learned it from a lot of different areas, but essentially, like, older men than me, I learned the value of hard work. Because if you look at your own friends, like you're in your 20s or whatever, and you look around, your friends, you probably have like one or two friends that's like a straight A student or a hard worker, right? But the majority of people in that age range that are young are not hard workers. They don't know the value of hard work. They don't know that going and earning an hour's worth of salary, of wages, they don't want to do it because they don't want to show up for that 1 hour. But when you earn money, you can then deploy that money and buy whatever life you want. So it's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. And most young people will be like, yeah, but I don't want to go to a job and do backbreaking hard work and then only get a little bit of money. And I'm with you. That's why we have to work ourselves out of that. We have to get a little bit older, get ourselves educated, become mature, and find more valuable things so that we can increase our hourly wage, or we can increase the amount of money coming in. What is personal finance? It's not about being rich. Personal finance is actually about being free and in control of your life. You are the person that decides what you're going to do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. And maybe you, through following the following system with setting up discipline, you might sign yourself up for work today, but you'll sign yourself up for freedom in the near future. I say near future, but just in the future. And why is that good? It's good because it provides you hope. You can get through any 8-hour shift if you have hope on the other side of it. So what are you doing after this shift, and what are you doing in the future? And so that creates a way where you don't have to just get through a workday through pure motivation. I heard somewhere recently that motivation ends by lunchtime. So you can get motivated into doing things, but around noon, 1 p.m. now you gotta you gotta push through, and your reason why for pushing through a shift is because you're gonna get paid on the other end of it. So I hope that makes sense. All right, personal finance is about spending, saving, earning, investing, and then protecting what you have, what you've earned. The key idea is every dollar you earn has a job to do. And so that's gone are the days of we get money and then we spend money and we don't know how much is coming in and how much we're spending. You got to get an idea of that. And if you don't know how to do that, you've got to get with someone who knows how to do that. You're listening to me right now, so you can reach out and we can talk back and forth. I'm willing to help people out with this. There's a couple caveats. I want to make sure that you're like being real with it, that ideally this is, I'd work and talk with someone that is open to the coaching, that wants it, and then is okay with like me filming it so that I can create content around that so I can help more people. So if that sounds interesting or something like you want or something that you need, reach out to me, okay? The budgeting, there's a couple rules for budgeting, right? So tracking before you plan it, before you spend it. So where are we going to spend our money before we end up, making the purchase? So it's okay to like spend money and on the meal that you want. So if you want extra guacamole at Chipotle and you're like, I'm poor, I don't have enough money, but that's the one thing that you want, there is a world where we can get you extra guacamole every single time. If that's the one thing you like, now, but it can't be extra guacamole everywhere, right? It can't be you get the nicest car and you get this and you get that and you get the latest laptop and you get Starbucks drink every single day. Like you can't get like all of that, right? But you can choose the one or two things that you really like. And if those change week to week, that's all right, but we've got to budget it. Okay? So this is not restrictive. This is constructive. There's like 3 broad categories with budgeting. There's needs, there's wants, and then there's future. And people kind of tend to mix up all the 3 with the needs and wants category, and then stuff they're building for the future, they think that's a want. But there's 3 separate things here. The needs, you have to pay them. And then the wants, we can adjust with that. But I believe over a long enough timeline, if you're willing to work for it, you can get just about anything you want. Like you can't like go to Mars or something like that, but if you wanted to get a nice car, you could get a nice car. You could save up for it. You've got, that's your reason why to work, but we can get people there with patience. You've got to pay yourself first, and this is saving. So if you guys don't know how to save, it's not a complex thing. It's just when the paycheck comes in, you decide what happens to it first, and you make sure you put some aside for savings. There's a couple mindset shifts that you've got to go through if you're going to be a person. People that are wealthy, they buy assets. They don't just buy liabilities. Like a liability is like buying a car with a car payment, and now, yes, you have a car, but you've got to pay every month. So you bought this car, and as soon as the car drives off the lot, if you buy a new car, that car is worth less money than 20 minutes ago when you didn't, before you had purchased it. Now you've purchased it, the car is worth less. Now, it's good because you needed the car, and now you have a new car, but it's bad because you don't have the money. And so there are smart ways of purchasing a car where it's not draining you of money every single month. Like you could save up for it beforehand and then buy it outright with cash, and then now you have a car, and that's more of an asset. It's not just draining you of money. Liabilities is like debts. It's things that you want to pay, or things that you have to pay every month. This whole idea of like spending like equal like a good feeling, we've got to eliminate that. Like, good feelings are good feelings independent of spending money on the good feelings. So it's like a subtle point, but you actually can feel, you've got to train yourself to feel good without spending. So you know, that might be like, how do I just enjoy this really good meal without it being the most expensive meal that I want? Like, just find that Chipotle bowl order that is pretty inexpensive, that you get the extra guac, that's fine. It's $2 extra, it's not going to break the bank. And then that's your meal that you eat. And that's your daily, like, grind or whatever. So if you find, like, that you spent money on, right? But if you didn't spend, you can't be getting Uber Eats every single day and, like, feeling good that you didn't have to go out and get the food. Like, that just doesn't, it doesn't. Don't do Uber Eats, guys. That's like rule number 1 of personal finance. Okay, moving on to compounding. It's these compounding habits. If you just stop spending money in certain areas, that amount of money that you save will compound over time. And so even if you fall off just a little bit, like one day you slipped up, you spent a little bit extra, you went out of your budget, that's okay. Don't like give up the entire thing. Like, you've got to push through and not let that one small mistake derail you for the rest of your time. Money is not equivalent to morality. It's not good or bad. Money is just a tool. There are good people with lots of money. There are bad people with lots of money. There are people who are broke that are good people, and then there are people who are broke that are just pieces of crap, okay? They're just bad people, right? I want us to get out of this mindset that just because someone has lots of money that makes them a bad person, okay? That is actually a mindset that's keeping you down. So if this is very hard conversation to have, right? But like, if you're poor and you're listening to this and you're hanging out with other people, you look all around and everyone else around you is poor, that sucks. You've got to be different. Like, you have to, in order to get yourself out of there, because here's the thing. Reality, if everyone around you is poor, they're not getting out of that. The things around it are not going to change. You have to change. You are the only person that will get yourself out of that situation, because nothing is going to, it's just very unlikely, right? Like, nothing is going to come around and just pick you up out of poverty and then help you. Like, you've got to do it yourself. You've got to do this Herculean effort. Like, you've got to do the impossible. And because you do the impossible, you'll be better for your family. You'll be respected by your friends. You'll increase your status. And you'll be so proud of yourself. And also, you can do this at any age. You know, if you're 40 years old and you haven't lived a good life in terms of money so far, you can change that, and you can, by age 45 or 50, become wealthy enough that you're very happy and satisfied. I'm, like I said, targeting this video towards the younger demographic of people. I would love for people ages, let's call it 18 to 25, that just really resonate with this message. I'm 32 myself, so I've got my life experience, but you know, I've done well for myself. I've done okay. I haven't done anything extraordinary, but I just want to, you know, it's just those little habits that bring together wealth, and then you can be successful as well. So if you're responsible, you can get yourself out of being broke. Credit cards versus debit cards. Debt. So, well, not debit cards, but what's the difference between the two? If you're not good with money, don't get a credit card, because a credit card feels like you can just spend the money now. But you don't have the money. Like I mean I can't express this point. It's really not that complicated. If you in America, there are groups of people running businesses that try to target you to give you a card so that you can go out and spend lots of money, and then you won't be able to figure out how to pay for it afterwards. So that's what a credit card is. If you're the type of person that you can spend a little bit, track how much you're spending, and pay it off every month, then a credit card is a good thing. But in my experience, talking to many different types of people, credit cards don't work for the majority of people. Okay? I mean that they end up spending a little bit too much. So if you're out, you feel like you're out with people, you can order an extra drink, we'll put it on the credit card, because then you don't have to pay it. You can just do it later. And that's a dangerous thing. That's a big concept I'm going to buy now, pay later. Avoid all these types of things, because in the moment you're going to be okay with putting that aside on your future self. And that's not very nice to your future self. That's like being rude. You're being a real jerk to your future self. And the reality of the situation is that you do have to deal with it the next day. So this is like, alcohol. Like, you can drink alcohol, but the problem is if you drink too much alcohol, you're going to lose control of your faculties, like your senses, and then you can't figure out what you're doing, and you're going to go and piss people off. You're going to be loud and annoying, or someone's going to have to take care of you. And the next day you're not going to know what happened, and then you're going to feel all bad. Well, you don't have to be drunk in that case. Like, spending money is like that too, where if you spend money now in the moment, you're going to regret that later. And there's nothing that feels so good that you have to have it now that is worth torturing your future self. I mean, there's just nothing. I can't think of anything. Like, unless you're saving the life of your child or something, I mean, there's really nothing that is worth future pain. You want the future to be better, right? It isn't always better, because we're biological human beings. So you're going to grow older. Your body's going to break down. So it's not all good news. But in terms of finances and being responsible and personal accountability and personal finance, if you're tracking how much you're making and not spending a lot and not putting it all on the credit card, your future will be better. And that's worth learning these skills now so that you don't screw things up and have a worse future. You can't predict everything, like you can't control for all factors, but if you can control one factor, that's your money, you can control so much more in the future. So let's talk about debt. Debt is stuff that you owe. So signing up for debt today is really bad. It's signing up for debt in the future is really bad. Signing up for the debt in the past, you can't change it, right? Like, you already signed it. Student loans, car loans, mortgages. Mortgages are different because personally I have a mortgage and I'm pro using that as a form of like borrowing. There's a lot to be said on that, but if you have good money spending habits, the goal is in your future to eventually save up enough money to put a down payment on a house and then to pay monthly on that house. And so even though that is a debt, you've bought a house. A house is a pretty good investment because houses tend to increase in value over time. So you're buying a structure, you're buying a residence, you're buying like shelter, a place to stay, and then you're buying something that will increase in value over time. And then you can keep it within your family, you can give it to your kids. There's a lot of good reasons for buying a house. Buying a car is not the same thing. Buying a car, yes, you have the asset, you have the vehicle, and you can get in the vehicle and you can drive to work, so that's a good thing. But the vehicle costs maintenance, it costs gas, it requires upkeep and maintenance, and then cars fail. I mean, no car will last forever. So if you buy a new car, do you have 5 years before something goes wrong with it? Do you have 10 years? 10 years is pretty good, but if you buy a used car and it only is going to last for 2 years, you should really be cautious of how much you're paying for that. And then do you want to go into finance, go into debt for it? Buying a car you should always buy a used car. You shouldn't buy a new car, because when you drive it off the lot, it's going to be worth less. And you're still paying a lot for it. I'm okay if you save up a little bit every paycheck and then in the future buy yourself an expensive car and just pay outright for it. I think that's a noble and worthy goal. There's a couple, I've gone over good debt versus bad debt. There's things like student loans, which if you have to do, you have to do it. You've taken out a loan to educate yourself so that you in the future can get a better paying job. And so that better paying job will help pay for even though you went into debt. So that's a good way of doing things. But the problem with nowadays in 2025 is that too many people take on too much debt, and then they don't have a plan for, I'm going to get this specific job at the end of it. They don't even think about that part. They're just like, I've got 4 years of school. I want to sign up, and this is my area of study. Okay, but what's the job you're going to get at the end of it? Oh, I didn't think that far. You have to think that far. What is the job or the type of jobs or the industry of employment? If you're going to work in healthcare, like you want to make money, what do you want to do in healthcare? Do you want to be a nurse? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be an administrator? You have to choose your lane, and then you have to get the schooling, but choose it for the job itself. And maybe the job itself will change, but you want something that's that level or above. So I want a job that pays me $60,000 a year minimum. I want it to be a desk job, like an office job, and I want it to be something that requires a bachelor's. So then go on the internet right now and you can check to see if those type of jobs exist, and something will exist there. And then you want to get a degree for that end goal, the $60,000 a year job or whatever the number is. That way you know how much you can go into debt to get the degree, to get the job at the end. But the important part is getting the job. The important part is not just signing up for college classes and educating yourself. That methodology, that's stuff in the past. It used to be that you educate yourself and it's just good to be knowledgeable. But in today's day and age, you really are only getting the degree, not for the knowledge. You're getting it for the piece of paper, the certification that allows you to enter to get the job. I know it's silly. I personally think going to school for 4 years and learning lots of extra stuff and paying a lot in order to get a piece of paper, a college degree, that allows you to get a job, I think that's silly, but that is the best method we have now. And so there's, if you want to be different or special, I could talk to you individually, and I'd actually love to go, anybody that's out there listening to this that says, no, I did it a different way. Great, let me know. And did you do 0 years of college? Did you do an apprenticeship? Did you do 2 years of college? There's no one right way of doing it. There are wrong ways of doing it, though, which is the wrong way is sign up for a bunch of debt, don't have a plan, don't get a job, and then go work somewhere that pays you like minimum wage, or be like a Starbucks barista with a college degree or a master's degree. It's not a good plan. I know people that are doing that didn't plan that, and that's the point. That's what I'm telling you guys is plan, right? That's personal financing. Let's talk about your credit score. Your credit score, if you don't know what that is, it's like your GPA, but for being an adult. And I would say it matters less than your GPA, although for some people it matters way more than their GPA. Your credit score it's a range, and there's low, and then there's high, and there's all sorts of stuff in the middle. And there are services that you can go look up your credit score if you don't know what that is and you don't have any history of purchases or history of credit cards or history of employment or history of taking out loans like mortgages and stuff, you really don't need to worry about it because your credit score is either non-existent or bad if you did something, or if you did like a few things, it could be good, but it's largely meaningless, right? You want to build up a credit score though, and you want to build up a positive credit score. And so if you are 22 years old right now listening to this, you're living at home, and you should get a job of some sort. You should get an income, and then based on that income, you could go to a bank and try to apply for a student credit card or something like that. And someone will go through and list out how much do you make, and they'll approve you for the credit card or say that you don't qualify. If you don't qualify, no harm, no foul, no problem. If you do qualify, apply for that credit card, and they'll probably give you like a $500 limit or a $1,000 limit, and that's attached to your bank account. And what you want to do is spend a little bit every month on that credit card so that you'll build up a credit score. And if you build up a credit score, you want to build up a positive credit score so that you have good credit. And if you have good credit in a couple years, when you apply for a loan for a house or a car, they will give you a better interest rate, and that you'll save money in the long run. So it's very important to do that. The rule for credit cards is always pay off your full balance. Don't just pay the minimum balance. If you pay the full balance, everything you've charged and swiped on your credit card, you owe that. You should pay it that month. If you miss it and just allow it to keep on going, they'll take that balance. You swipe your card, $100, and I'm not going to pay it. Okay, $100 goes by. The interest will be like 30% on that, and now you owe $130. And if you miss that payment 2 months from now, you owe 30% of whatever $130 is. So on top of that. So you're just paying more and more and more if you don't pay off your credit card. All right. Let's talk about emergency fund. Emergency fund is a big deal. I love having an emergency fund. Emergency fund means that it's extra, whatever you spend in 1 month times 3 to 6 months, you have that in your bank account. This is huge. So there's two different ways to have an emergency fund. The first way is if you have $0, your goal is to build up an emergency fund of $1,000 right now, as soon as you can. If that takes you a couple weeks, that's okay. So you have to get a job, you have to get an income, then you have to try to save enough that you can get $1,000. Then after that, once you can put $1,000 in your bank account, you want to save up 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. So that means you have to look to see how much you spend each month, and you have to add it all up, and you have to go with someone to figure it out. I can do this with any viewer that's out there. Just hit me up and we'll go through it together. We could do that part like privately, but I want to come up with screenshots or something to display to the audience, and we'll go through it and we'll fix, for an emergency fund. Couple details: Roth IRA versus 401k versus like a brokerage account. With these, you don't need to get into like super detail. I just simply recommend getting a job, seeing if they have a 401k, like retirement benefits, and then contribute the maximum amount that they contribute. At my job, it's 4%. So they put 4% of my paycheck into a retirement account. And because they take 4% out of my paycheck with my employer, they also pay on top of that. So it's like free money, and that's in a retirement account that you should be able to have access to and look up. So that's great. I mean, if you're already working, all of us are aging, all of us are getting older, and all of us eventually want to stop working in some capacity. We want to slow down, and so that's what the retirement fund is. If you don't save up for any of that, then I mean, what are you going to do when you're 70 and you don't want to work and you don't have money? You're going to just have to work. Like, that sucks. Like, let's not do that. Let's enjoy our later ages. You want to buy index funds. You don't want to buy TikTok hype coins. You don't want to, if you don't understand those, don't put your money into those. It's a good way to lose money. A great way is to automate savings or automate your investing. We haven't talked about investments yet. That's why I want to talk about personal financing, to get all of us on the same page where we have a little bit of money in the bank account and we know what we're doing. We feel okay. Because after that, that's when the fun part begins, in my opinion, which is the investing. So I'm going to make an investing course, but I've personally made lots of money by investing, and it's not more complicated than people think. It definitely can be, but the way I've outlined it is, and I can make it really easy and understandable for everybody. So I automate my investments, which means my paycheck comes in and a certain amount from that paycheck goes automatically into another account. And then with that, it's kind of fun money that I can invest. That's my system for now, but I could teach that to you guys. That's going to be another course though. This is all about removing willpower from that equation. So I'm not the type of person that can, through my own perfect willpower, like determine how much I'm going to save or spend. Usually it's like I have to do it automated so that I don't have a choice in it, which is a good thing for me. It's important to know your net worth, how much assets you have versus how much you owe. And if someone can help figure that out for you, then you know where you stand. If you have to be more aggressive with the saving, or if you can sort of ease up and say, hey, you're actually doing all right. You're doing better than you thought. Take that vacation, buy the car that you want or whatever, right? Like, it's wonderful if you're doing budgeting and you say, I got a couple extra dollars. I can go to Outback Steakhouse or whatever it is. Like, I can take my family out. You guys probably need help, like setting up auto saving or a high yield savings account. Probably for this audience, do you have an investment account with Fidelity or other brokerages? And then, do you guys listen to podcasts? Do you listen to content like this? How do you get your financial education? Who told you growing up? I was lucky that I had teachers and parents that helped me with personal finance, but and also I just did self-discovery. But if someone like me wasn't making a YouTube video like this with you watching all the way through, how would you get your information? There's all sorts of ways of thinking about it, but it's financial clarity at the end of the day. It's what's happening, how much do we have, and where's it going? Defining your net worth is your assets. We've talked about that. Assets cover cash, investments, real estate, business equity. Your liabilities include credit cards, loans, mortgage, anything that you owe on. Sometimes it can be helpful to have a net worth tracker. This could be like a monthly update that you have, and using certain apps for that. It could help conducting a cash flow audit, so listing all your income sources, if any. Income sources, the number one is going to be your salary. It could be through freelance work. It could be through dividends. I own a couple stocks and they give out dividends. And then passive income, if anyone is doing things that generate that. And then it's a simple act of categorizing all expenses. So, what's your fixed expenses? These expenses that come every single month. So rent or mortgage. All of us got to pay for where we're living. If you're able to live at home, that's phenomenal. But then we'll in that case, if I was working with someone and they said, I live at home, great. Well, then let's make up what your rent would be, and let's aim to save that amount every month so that in the future, when you actually move out and go to an apartment, it's like you magically have that amount of rent saved up. So I love that strategy. I'm pro people moving back home for a short amount of time with a plan. You got to deal with your parents and stuff, but if you could save money and you get out of there and you set yourself up on a road to success, that is amazing. Okay, I see that we're running to the end of my 30-minute plan. I've got some more things to say, but overall, I'm going to end the video here. What have you liked? What would you change, if anything? What do you need extra advice on? And does anyone want to do a one-on-one where I help you out, like Caleb Hammer style? I personally, I don't want to rag on that guy too much. I think he's all right, but I find other people more like entertaining. I'm sure someone could go after me and say I'm silly or cringe or something, but I don't know. I could do like I see what Caleb Hammer and his type, like what he's going for, and I got ideas for a show that could be better than that. But I've got to execute on it. I've got to implement on it. So that's part of what I'm doing here today. So, all right, if you stuck with me so far, tell me what you liked, comment below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace for now.